Brought to you by
Oil Challenge packaged drinking water. लंबा था सफर अब लंबे हैं सिक्सर पूरी दुनिया में झंडे गाड़े हैं मिस्टर मैं नहीं तो कौन बे Royal Challenge packaged drinking water. मैं नहीं तो कौन.
Okay, we're in the middle of a cricket crisis involving the ICC, the PCB, the Bangladesh Cricket Board, and of course, the Board of Control for Cricket in India. And joining us, a special guest, someone who knows the inside outs of cricket administration. He is a journalist, he is a politician as well, but most importantly, has been three-time the head of the Pakistan Cricket Board in 3 different tenures. We're delighted to be speaking to Mr. Najam Sethi. Sir, thank you so much, firstly, for speaking to us here at India today. And my first question is, what do you make of Pakistan government's decision to boycott the India match? I'm looking at it purely as a cricket lover, and I see no financial gains to come out of that. In fact, a lot of financial losses. I look at strategic issues that might arise later. Yet the government has taken the call. What do you make of this decision?
Well, I must tell you that I support this decision. I do so because I've been dealing with such issues. I have dealt with such issues for some time. And the last time there was this problem when the Asia Cup came along, and I was at that time head of PCB, and I had to negotiate with Mr. Jay Shah, who was then head of the Asian Cricket Council as well. And it took us a lot of toing and froing and to finally be able to play India in Dubai, whereas the rest of everybody else ended up playing in Pakistan. And I found it very unreasonable, the attitude of the BCC. And so I know exactly what happens in these situations. And so I think the government of Pakistan has done exactly what the government of India has been doing in the past, and taken this position. And I think regardless of the consequences, we all here feel that it's time, enough is enough. These double standards must come to an end. India and Pakistan must play together, whether it's here or whether it's there. And at the end of the day, the boards, at the end of the day, they have to listen to what their governments are saying. This was a principle that was established in a case that went up to a very high court in the cricket establishment between India and Pakistan. And at that time, this is 2014-15, the series that was cancelled by India after having written a contract with us. I was the signing authority on that contract. Mr. Srinivasan was the other one on the other side. And the court held that if you looked at the contract with a microscope, Pakistan was well justified in demanding that India play Pakistan. But if you looked at it through a binocular, these are the words of the judgment, India was, BCCI was within its rights not to play. Why? Because the government told it not to play. And that was the end of the matter. And since no security issues are involved in Dubai, it was simply a question of government policy. And so that's where the judgment rests. And that's what now, in a sense, the ICC has acknowledged in this press release of theirs, where they say that, yes, we understand if the government says so, then you can't go ahead with it. Regardless of that, the ICC still wants some sort of a compromise, which is what the last sentence of their press release says.
Just a couple of questions, listening to what you've had to say in your opening remarks. Firstly, you talk about that India had been doing this, and so it was time that Pakistan put their foot down. The only difference is India wasn't keen on playing bilateral cricket, but at no point did they boycott the Pakistan game at an ICC level. I think the one courtesy that was extended to both India and Pakistan, that fine, you'll play in neutral venues, and that was the end of it. But there was no boycotting of a game that was being played at a neutral venue. Now Pakistan ends up doing that. So it's not really apples to apples sort of a comparison.
It is really, because if you understand the sort of negotiations that took place before this hybrid model was activated, this is exactly what we were told, that if you do this, then we won't do this. If you do this, we won't play, and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter whether it's a bilateral series or whether it's an ICC tournament. At the end of the day, if courtesies have to be extended, then, I can give you many examples when courtesies weren't extended. In fact, in the last instance, this incident in which the Indian team refused to shake hands with the Pakistanis, that's a courtesy. It's not a rule or a law. And if even such small courtesies are not to be extended, then where's the spirit of the game? Where's the whole sporting spirit that we talk about, and the bonhomie and all the rest of it, that it's a game of cricket, it's not politics. So if one side has decided to play politics, then I suppose everybody will fall in line at some stage or the other. And that's exactly what Bangladesh have done now. And Pakistan has followed suit.
You say that, it's about extending of courtesies. India did not shake hands. The one question that's the very obvious one to ask is that when all of this was happening, let's take your point that, India did not extend the courtesy of shaking hands or not taking the trophy from Mr. Mohsin Naqvi. Many might say, even in Pakistan, that when it was India versus Pakistan, yet Pakistan did not boycott the rest of the matches. They continued to play. Now it is an issue about a third party in Bangladesh. What's the need for Pakistan to be boycotting an India match when the issue really now is Bangladesh? Mr. Naqvi said it himself that after, you've not extended this courtesy to Bangladesh, we'll have a rethink. So when it was India, Pakistan, or probably on occasions where Pakistan was hurt the most, yet they continued to play. But what really happens when Bangladesh comes in that Pakistan decide to boycott the India match?
It's the attitude of the BCCP. That's the problem. At every stage, they've been bullying people. Now, Pakistan used to be isolated. It was 1 amongst 10 at that time. Now perhaps there are 2 or more permanent members. But at that time, everybody used to side with India. So there was no point in standing out. If I remember, I negotiated the final entry into the big 3. We were the last ones. We said, no, we don't want to be part of the big 3. And 9 members signed on. And Mr. Srinivasan came to me and said, why do you want to be left alone? Blah, 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 blah. You will be isolated and all the rest of it. And we had decided that we would stand aside. Okay, because it was an inherently inequitous principle. And then they said, okay, we will revise the principle. We will increase the shares of certain other members, including us. And also, they agreed to play a series with us in order to make up for our previous losses that we'd incurred. So the contract was fine. But see, then a year later, on the eve of the series, the BCCI without a word pulls out. I mean, I went to Mumbai in October of that year to finally sign on the dotted line and get everything sorted out, and they wouldn't even see us in the hotel. I mean, can you think of an even bigger insult? The chairman and I went to Mumbai. We sat in the hotel, waited for the BCCI, and the BCCI sent a message saying, sorry, we can't meet you. And we'd been invited to come to Mumbai to in a sense, sign on the dotted line. And so they've been treating us very badly. And I think now that at least Bangladesh has also been snubbed in a sense, we feel that, well, there are now 400 million people on one side, so we can all stand up. And I think the philosophy behind this thinking in government in India and Pakistan now in Pakistan and Bangladesh now is that it's time to stand up. It's time that these inequitous policy positions that the ICC takes, just because the BCCI is running the ICC, this is a time to stand up. There may be temporary losses, but at the end of the day, we'll probably get a better reformed ICC.
Mr. Sethi, listening to you here, is it fair to assume that, I mean, because you've raised all these issues in the past as well, fair to assume that the decision that Pakistan government has taken doesn't have anything to do with Bangladesh? So are you conceding this is actually the historic, relevance or the issues that cropped up between India and Pakistan that Pakistan is deciding to do that? Because that's not what we've heard from the PCB so far. As I said, the last Bangladesh.
Look, Nikhil, I'm not a spokesman for the PCB. I'm giving you my view. The PCB apparently consulted the government, and they say they have, and they took this decision. They've also given, I think, there's 10, 15 days to go before that particular match. My sense is that there are negotiations that are taking place right now, and I'm hoping that those negotiations will bear fruit. But what I'm saying to you is my view. I'm not representing the PCB here.
Okay, let me stick to your views. I remember that you were very instrumental in ensuring that Pakistan go ahead and play that UAE game. I know I was there in Dubai at that time covering the Asia Cup, and it was almost on the verge of being cancelled. Pakistan wasn't taking the field versus UAE. And I know there's a meeting that happened between you as well as Mr. Mohsin Naqvi. Ramiz Raja was part of it. And I know you played a very important role there in trying to convince the current PCB chief that, listen, this will be a misstep. We must go ahead and play this game. Now you endorse this view of Pakistan pulling out. What has really changed when it comes to your view from what happened in Asia Cup to now?
Well, I really think that this is going a bit too far. I think we've been bending over backwards to keep the ball moving, as it were. But this business of, I mean, just look at it, the way Bangladesh was ousted. I mean, they can do that to anyone tomorrow. A player is not acceptable, is ousted, and then you create this. They ask for the match to be played in Sri Lanka. You can so easily accommodate it. What's the problem? If Pakistan is playing in Sri Lanka, you can get Bangladesh to play in Sri Lanka. What's the problem? And the BCCI or the ICC turns around and says, no. I mean, there are no principles involved over here, Nikhil. And I think Pakistan now feels that we have it. You know, we've always felt like this, but we were too weak to stand up because nobody else was ready to support us. But my sense now is that a lot of the other boards have expressed sympathy and support for Pakistan behind the scenes. They're not strong enough to say so in an ICC meeting. I've attended ICC meetings for 6 years, 5 years. So I know exactly what happens there. I remember when Afghanistan, at one meeting, the BCCI was of the position that, and the ICC was of the position that Afghanistan should not be allowed to play. Why? Because of human rights violations. And I remember I was the only one who argued the case for Afghanistan. They were silent. And I said, no, this is not on. You don't bring politics into it. This is a great team. Give them a chance. In time to come, some of these issues will be sorted out, but don't exclude them. And I'm glad that my view was accommodated, and then Afghanistan was allowed to get on with and play. So I think really we need to show a much more courtesy and camaraderie and the spirit of the game. And I think a time comes when you say enough is enough. And I think the government of Pakistan must have consulted the government of Bangladesh on this. And they must have decided that so be it. Because don't forget, now the ACC, if we don't resolve this problem here now, it's going to be a bigger problem in the ACC. Pakistan now is sitting in as the president of the ACC and Bangladesh with it. So you can imagine how the ACC is also now threatened by this sort of politics and counter politics and all the rest of it.
That's a fair point. I think, we may have seen the end of ACC as things stand right now, unless something drastic really happens. But I'm going back to that point where you mentioned that, there could be informal conversations that have happened between the PCB and rest of the board. So they could be sympathetic or empathetic towards what's happening with PCB. That's your claim. But why doesn't then that show in the meeting that happened where 14-2, it was voted in favor of having Bangladesh to move? I'm guessing if there are more boards that feel aggrieved with how BCCI is handling ICC, they would have come out and voted then.
Not necessarily. My experience is that at least during the time I was there, Mr. Srinivasan was there. And by the way, a great man, Mr. Srinivasan. But, and a friend of mine. And Jay Shah too. I mean, I've had lots of sessions with him. In private sessions, he's a very fine fellow. But I think when he's sitting in an official capacity, I think he's looking over his shoulder at home, to home. And so I think we have a few days, 10 days or so to go. I'm hoping some sort of compromise can be worked out, whereby such incidents don't happen in the future. I mean, you talked about it yourself. I mean, not shaking hands, not taking the trophy from Mohsin Naqvi. I mean, what's going on? Is this cricket? So I think basically at the end of the day, Mr. Mohsin Naqvi must have thought, or the government of Pakistan must have thought, enough is enough. Now is the time to stand up. We couldn't because we were weaker. Now we have Bangladesh on our side. And Bangladesh too must have obviously solicited Pakistan's support in this situation. And I think we're all hoping that somehow the ICC can now turn around and say, okay, Bangladesh can come and play in Sri Lanka. And if they can't, then it's okay. Doesn't matter. This will be, shall we say, a roadshow going forward. Next time they will have to think twice before this happens. If Bangladesh is out, so Pakistan can also miss this World Cup. At the end of the day, I think it's important to establish some new reform agenda.
Mr. Sethi, tell me, what is it that you said, you quoted a few examples in the past, those cases that went to court. And, if you say that the government says, then so be it. It's something that then ICC will have to take cognizance of. My point is, in Pakistan's case, what do you think when negotiations happen? What do you think Pakistan is going to tell the ICC? I'm quoting all other examples. In 96, teams did not want to travel to a country. Okay. In this case, Pakistan is traveling, so there's no security threat. Even if you talk about India not playing in Pakistan, you can say the government says there's security threat. So in this case, Pakistan's already in Sri Lanka. So that doesn't really cut mustard. Then you look at the other thing that, we had in 2003 where countries said we have no diplomatic relations with Zimbabwe, so we will not play there. In this case, it is not about India, Pakistan, that Pakistan has right now quoted, we're not playing. It's about, being or doing injustice to Bangladesh. So I'm just trying to look at when we quote past examples, it had directly to do with a country that pulled out. In this case, it's a third party. What do you reckon? Will Pakistan be telling ICC for them to see their point of view that will cut mustard with the ICC? Because right now, all those past examples don't add up in this case.
No, I think the past examples tell you how bad things are becoming. It's getting from bad to worse. And I think that's the reason why past examples are quoted. But I think more important, I don't know right now, what's being discussed behind the scenes. But I sense that one reason why the Pakistanis did not announce this decision that they will not play on the 15th. I mean, they could easily have said, kept quiet, gone to Sri Lanka, played their matches, and on the day of the match pulled out on some excuse or the other. I mean, it's, this region is full of false flags. I'm being ruthlessly honest with you, brutally honest. A false flag operation can give you the pretext to pull out. So, they could have done that, but they didn't. They came up front, they announced that they would not play, and behind the scenes, negotiations are taking place. I think this is a fine way to move forward. If only the ICC, or obliquely, shall I say, the BCCI, and because, now saying BCCI, ICC is the same thing. And I can, by the way, hold forth at length on this issue, how they're the same thing. And I think that would be a great gesture. It would show that the cricket is at the heart of everything, and everybody, people make mistakes, decisions are made in a hurry, emotionally, and so on. Things can be rectified, and rules can be established. I remember when we were discussing the Asia Cup, and in one meeting with Mr. Jay Shah, we had the then ICC chairman, Barclay, sitting in on with us. And I was trying to say, look, please accept this hybrid model that I'm proposing. I said one day, right now, we've never said that we won't come and play in India. But India never wants to come and play in Pakistan. And now there are no security issues. The whole world has come and played in Pakistan. So it's a political decision. We are not taking those decisions today, but tomorrow we might. And then what happens? So I said, Bangladesh or Dhaka is a half-an-hour flight from Calcutta. Maybe in the next World Cup, if it's going to be held in India, maybe Pakistan can play in Dhaka, India. So let's see the utility of this hybrid model until such time that India agrees to play Pakistan in the right conditions as per the norm. And I remember distinctly that there was some sympathetic clucking in certain quarters. But of course, once the Asia Cup sanctioned the hybrid model, now it's in operation. So if another team wants to be part of it, so be it.
It's interesting to note that a couple of times you mentioned that negotiations are on. That's what is the kind of feeling that you get. So keeping that door open for a U-turn at the moment from Pakistan. Firstly, do you see that happening? And if that common ground has to be found, what do you think, if you had to hazard a guess, what could be that common ground that both parties would agree to?
As I said, from my point of view, I don't know the Pakistani position. I must honestly tell you. From my point of view, if Bangladesh can be invited to play in Sri Lanka, I don't think it's too late for that. I think no issue. There are so many matches that are going to be played there, so they can be invited. Sorry?
We're 3 days away from the tournament starting. How does that happen now?
Yeah, well, I think it's a flight that can still take place. But having said that, if the Bangladeshis still don't want to come, then I think Pakistan and the ICC need to sort this issue out. My sense is that some other issues are also being discussed as a sort of give and take. I am not fully in the loop. So, but I can only suggest, or I can only sense that in the event that Bangladesh is not invited to play in Sri Lanka, or Bangladesh doesn't want to come now, I think some other issues Pakistan may have raised, thinking that this is the right time to now raise those issues as well. I'm not privy to those, but I just sense that. I'm just hoping at the end of the day that good sense will prevail. And if not, okay. I mean, you can't have a bigger cricket lover than me, you, all of us. We'd love to. I mean, the Pakistan team and the India match is a global standard, gold standard. Everybody wants to see it, and you guys are tough, tough, tough now, uh, and you're whipping a lot of teams all over the place. So, if I were you, I'd create the openings to play Pakistan, come hell or high water. I think you'll get a lot of satisfaction there.
Finally, Mr. Sethi, you say all options may be on table. Maybe negotiations work out, maybe they don't. I'm looking at the worst case scenario for Pakistan. If nothing really works out, you are hurting not just BCCI, but the ICC with the step that PCB takes. If, let's say, worst case scenario, ICC was to isolate Pakistan and Bangladesh going forward and look at sanctions, financial sanctions, maybe, bilateral sanctions. I don't know what is it that ICC can look at, because those are certain reports that are doing the round. Can Pakistan cricket really afford that? See, since those 2009 attacks, it's taken them about a decade to get things back onto track, for overseas teams to be coming, them playing regular ICC tournaments, even having a Champions Trophy, albeit partly being organized in Pakistan. But now you're playing with fire. In worst case scenario, is Pakistan ready for the worst case scenario? Where does that leave Pakistan cricket then going forward?
I think they worked out all these options. I think they've consulted their lawyers here and abroad. And I think the Pakistanis are feeling comfortable with the decision they've taken.
Okay. You think it's not going to be the worst case scenario, as I just, tried to...
I think, at the end of the day, worst case scenarios have to end up in courts. And I think that's where the lawyers have their day. So,
do you sense that there is a bit of geopolitics also involved in this, and it's not purely cricket? I mean, there is election due in Bangladesh. We know the Indian subcontinent is unstable at the moment, with military skirmishes happening between India and Pakistan. Many suggest that Pakistan looking for an ally in Bangladesh geopolitically. So it's not just cricket. There's a much bigger picture that's at play at the moment.
It's not that Pakistan and Bangladesh have, in a sense, joined hands to destabilize the subcontinent. I don't think it's anything like that. Not so long ago, Bangladesh was solidly lining up behind India. So these things happen. There was a time when the Sri Lankan Cricket Board was a little more independent than it is today. I remember I was in those meetings. I've seen different chairmen come and go. So I think, unfortunately, this India-Pakistan business has really cast a shadow over cricket. And the reason for that is that I've always said, keep politics out of it. You can go to war with each other, but still, at the end of the day, there's a ceasefire. And there's no war. And so then you should play. We need to control our crowds. We need to train our crowds. We need to educate them about the ethics and limits of nationalism. And we must not allow these to come into cricket, especially cricket, what we've always thought of being a gentleman's game. But unfortunately, when petty little incidents happen, they put people's backs up. And, South Asia is all honor bound. The honor plays a very important role in our political and social thinking. And so, unlike, say, the contractual transactional relationships in the West, ours are far more, shall we say, emotional and honor bound. So I think we need to take all these things into account, take all these issues out of the equation when you play cricket. Shake hands, play a good game, be good losers, good winners, and get on with it. And I think, I must tell you, this is a view that is commonly held now, especially in South Asia. You have India on one side and you have Bangladesh and Pakistan on the other. It's a terrible situation. It shouldn't happen. They must come together and play cricket.
Mr. Sethi, what you say, I mean, does sound good, but many might say, this is a utopian world that you're envisioning at the moment. Keeping politics out of sport is not happening anywhere. I mean, I was watching the Australian Open. The Ukrainian tennis player refuses to shake hands with the Belarusian. You know, you've had the Western Bloc almost eliminate Russia when it comes to that. So it's happened for many years. It's happened at the Olympic levels. It's happened in other sport. Can you really keep politics out of sport then?
I mean, it's becoming, as you say, it's becoming difficult to do so. Emotions are running high all around, especially when countries are warring with each other. But you know, now that the ICC is poised to go into the Olympics, that's a very important turning point for cricket globally to get into the Olympics. This is not a time for petty squabbles. The Olympics will not tolerate this sort of nonsense. And I think the ICC should think about these things just as much as the BCCI and India and Pakistan and Bangladesh and the others.
All right, Mr. Sethi, we may agree on certain things, disagree on others, but thanks for taking our time and being candid as always. Pleasure talking to you, Mr. Sethi.
Thank you very much.
स्पोर्ट्स तक पर आपको न सिर्फ खबरें मिलेंगी बल्कि आपका ओपिनियन भी मैटर करता है। ये आप ही का मंच है। आइए बताइए भारतीय क्रिकेट टीम से आप क्या उम्मीद करते हैं। रहिए स्पोर्ट्स तक के साथ, सब्सक्राइब कीजिए स्पोर्ट्स तक को YouTube और Facebook पर।